All right. I'd like to call this regular session in Richmond Exempted Village School District's Board of Education meeting into session here at 6:07 p.m. And the first item to consider is the agenda that's been posted and available to the public. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the agenda as presented.
Also move. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call.
All right, Mr. Wood? Yes. Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Storm?
Yes.
Mr. Dufault?
Yes.
Okay, recognition and awards.
I've not said this since April. I'm dying to say it. This is the best part of the agenda, right? It's beautiful. So we're very privileged tonight to have Mr. Stewart with us, our high school principal. Has a wonderful story to share and some great students to recognize. So, Mr. Stewart.
Good evening, everyone. It is my esteemed pleasure to nominate 3 students tonight for our Best Western Leading Line Award. 2 of them will be academically focused. The other is just an amazing, virtually a life-saving story that I'll tell a little bit. So, our first award tonight is a student who is not here. She's at a volleyball game, so she can't be here tonight to pick up her award. But it goes to Kate Coulter. Kate Coulter scored a 5 on her AP Literature exam last May. If you remember, this time last year we had 1 student get a 5 in our biology exam. This year we have 2 students who got 5s. So we had 170 AP exams taken, the most we've ever had at the high school, and that's getting larger every year. So Kate got a 5 on her AP Lit. There was about 8,600 students in Ohio took that test this past May, and the state average was a 3.4. So Kate went way above what the state average. So she's not here, so I'll take that for her to Boris to know.
Yes.
Our second student is here tonight. Luke Donnelly's back there. Luke took 2 AP exams last May. He got a 3 in AP Lit, and he also got a 5 in AP Gov, which is one of the harder exams. There was 15,000 students took the AP Gov exam in the state of Ohio, and the average on that test was 2.7. So he almost doubled the state average. So, Luke, great job, buddy. Come on up here. Come on up. Okay. Sit right there. And so our third award tonight is when I heard this story in August, I couldn't believe it actually happened the way it happened. This is one of our current students who attends Grant, Ali Rizik, and when I heard this, one of those things you hear and you're like, that could not have happened the way that I heard it. So I'll try and tell the story. Ali asked me to tell it. She didn't want to tell it tonight. So Ali was working at Coney Island over the summer as a lifeguard. And there was a lady in one of the pools who was in some distress and was drowning. So a lifeguard jumped in to save this woman. They got tangled as the older lady panicked, and cords got wrapped around the lifeguard's neck, and she basically was dead, passed out dead. So they dragged the lifeguard up into the side of the pool. Ali was also on duty then, and gave that lifeguard mouth to mouth and saved her life. And the cool part, besides saving her life, is she learned how to do CPR in Miss Flam's health class. And that's who she credited with the skills of saving the lifeguard's life. So an amazing story. Remember last year with Young Serenity Wells with the bus, got on the radio, so kind of it's a train field, which our kids are getting some good practical experience. So Ali, congratulations, that's an awesome story. It's 3 great students who in their area, it's well-deserved excellence. So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is, wow. Great. It couldn't
awesome.
happen like that, but I guess it did, right?
It did. I was
It
It was amazing.
Oh my gosh. Goodness. What a great story, Ms. Stewart. I'm sure Mr. Shanklin will help promote all 3 of these wonderful stories. That's fantastic. Could we get separate pictures first with Luke and then with Alex? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, yeah.
Up here by the backdrop, please.
up here, legal question, up here.
All people with that.
So that makes that make you feel good.
I'm a
Congratulations, buddy. All right, Al, you want to come up? Awesome. All right. Congratulations, guys.
Nice job.
I'm sure Mr. Shankers will be following up with you. Get some information. Oh my God.
That's awesome.
I'll get this thing.
Yes, thank you, Mr. That was fantastic. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh, let's see.
Okay, any public participation? None submitted? Anybody else? Committee reports.
First one on there is the Grant Career Center. Our next meeting is this Thursday, the 21st. So no update from Grant other than I'll remind everyone that the 13th of October is the Grant Give Back program. So Friday the 13th. That's it for Grant.
Next is the Athletic Council. We opened with a welcome to our new middle school AD, Jason Lynch. You weren't aware of that added position. Who's also assistant principal, doing a tough job. Talked a lot about heat, and I think Tracy will be speaking about that, but obviously we were talking about safety as it related to all of the sports during that little bit of a heat wave that we had. We also talked about the supplemental study. It's been presented to the board. It is still under consideration, and we're looking at positions that might need to be added, but pursuing that tentatively with costs involved. In addition, we talked about gate workers' pay and trying to get that underway since we need consistency there, and are still continuing to look at our trainers' contract and where that might be headed. I think that's all I've got. I should mention at the end, we do have a lot of talk and discussion around middle school athletes and equipment, so we are still considering what we need to do there to get them up to speed.
Next is Business Advisory Council. It's not a full-blown board committee, but yet I still want to give updates to our community and to the board. Mr. Wells is our board rep on that. Had just a wonderful first meeting of the year. There's people who love the school, love the district, and love our community, and just want nothing but the best. Make final preparations for the homecoming festivities, and now we're just a week past that. I thought it was fantastic. I thought everything about that, the whole week, the activity is just great. It's no comparison having the parade on Thursday versus having it on Friday. Just all the kids can participate, the community members, and it's good for our downtown business area. So hats off to everyone who played that. Just fantastic. So, Mr. Zimmerman, that's for Business Advisory.
All right, Policy Committee is the next one. Well, all the policies were reviewed. We went through all of them in about an hour, a little bit more maybe, and they're going to be on the agenda. They're available for the public to see for first reading today, and we also went over the administrative guidelines for the Army of Staff. So more to come on all those topics later.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I had Personnel Committee. We met on September 12th. Really 4 big items. Really, there was 5 on the agenda, but we kind of lumped 2 of them together. First one was, and it's on the agenda tonight, voting on revised job descriptions, mainly in the facilities, as well as our transportation department. Second of all is our gate workers. For any of us that know that work in youth football, all the way up to any other sport, we have major issues getting gate workers and help. So trying to attract gate workers to be able to give us some help is something on the docket, and I think that was on the supplemental thing tonight for vote. And then the supplemental discussion, source of strength stipend was kind of lumped together, trying to be creative and trying to find some opportunities where we could fill some voids really that really came out of the committee of supplemental contracts, right? So how we could fill some areas there, and then also helping with the source of strength, finding some money there to help with that as well. And then last, there was a staffing update. I think one thing that came out of that was we have a one-to-one parapro that we're adding at the high school. Obviously, we have a student came in from West Claremont, so that will be additional headcount for us here at the district. That's all.
All right, Superintendent's report.
So thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. So let's start with today. Today was Safety Day. We're on like an every other year rotation. I thought it was fantastic. Our principals, our facilities, transportation, food service had a very robust slate of activities. I shared with the board last Friday. Some of the topics that were covered: suicide awareness and prevention, sexual abuse training, Alice, lockdown training, stop the bleed, all important issues. I had a chance to see the sexual abuse training. I will talk about that when it's policy in a minute. It was fantastic. The Claremont County prosecutor did a wonderful job with that. So very pleased with that, and hopefully our staff feel the same about that as well. It is hard to believe the last time we met, we had just started school. We are already at midterms. Homecoming is finished. I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves now, right? It's been a fantastic start. People are working hard. And everybody who comes here and visits us says we've got great kids. We really do that. They do their best to try their best. I do want to mention, because Mrs. Story had mentioned it, I want to give a special shout out to all of our athletes, our band members, our teachers, our aides. This heat, this fall we've had a couple of really bad weeks. It is hot, and all credit to them for going above and beyond and trying to make it work, and practicing at 5 or 6 a.m. or moving your practice times, or gym classes being creative with different things. It is hot. Our band's out there practicing, marching around. They deserve credit. At some point, I would like to speak with our facilities committee and then the board as a whole. And maybe it was just many years ago, because this is my 5th year, so it'd be more than that ago. The conversation of looking at air conditioning for our high school gymnasium. When you walk in that back door by the cafeteria, it is like you hit a wall of heat. And you get closer to the gym, and it is, for our volleyballers, our gym class, it's potentially, I think, unhealthy for them to have that. So they deserve credit. I just want to shout them out for that. Speaking of everybody's working hard and doing well, I know Dr. Jill's going to speak about this in a little bit. We'll do more later. Report card results were released, and I'm very pleased with the progress that we're making. I don't want to say too much now, but I'd like to schedule a work session with the board. We've done this the past couple of years to talk about academics. Well, principals present their goals. Here's what we did last year. Here's what we're going to do this year. And so everybody's on the same page. And I'm looking at before our next board meeting, so Monday, October 9th at 5 o'clock for a work session. We'll post it. It's an open meeting, but it's a chance just to talk about our day job, talk about academics. That's good. And Mr. Zimmerman, those are my 3 topics for today.
Okay. All right. Next is the first reading of policy.
So just to review, if this is your first time seeing us go through these, or you've been through this several times before, the first 2 are administrative guidelines. They do not require a board vote, therefore everyone's awareness. After today, there's a pretty good chance we won't talk about these administrative guidelines again, and those are the ones dealing with the arming of staff. Policy was passed many months ago. The AGs just described how you're going to implement the policy, and that's what that is. And the administrative guideline is posted first, but then there's a concealed carry confidentiality agreement for those who wish to conceal carry would be asked to sign this confidentiality agreement. No board vote is needed on this. This is just for awareness for the people that are here, the people that are watching this online. When it comes to policies, every district goes through this, and just as a review, and I try to keep it as organized as possible. So there'll always be an overview. So for example, so everybody can know what we're talking about. So this one's called Technology Overview. It's very skeleton, saying these are the policies that got revised, which talk about tobacco. I then group them together. So 1615, 3215, 4215, 5512, 7434, and 9160 all deal with, you'll see it's like cut and paste language. And what they did in those 6 policies was try to really define what does nicotine mean. Of course, 6 months from now will be something new invented, so we'll have to change the policy again, but I digress. What it's also saying, though, is if you're on a medical treatment plan, the most important part of this, a medical treatment plan to rid yourself of nicotine, those cessation products are allowed. So nicotine gum or the patch or whatever. So that is that. Then, and just as you're reading these policies also, let's just say, when you click on one, you open it up. Stripe through pink is languages being eliminated, the green is new language, and then pretty much it talks about them. You'll see the new language. That big paragraph is what I'm talking about, is they really try to define what tobacco means, Juuls, enjoy, breeze, puff bar, etc. So there'll be something else in 6 months, I promise. So those are the tobacco policies. The next group is our technology policies. And what you'll also see, I think it's interesting, we work with Neola, and many districts know how to do work with Neola for your policies. We'll say you need to pass these and stay current with statute, with current Supreme Court law, Ohio law. They'll say you need to pass them. Sometimes they'll say, though, they're recommended, but they're not required. So these technology policies fall up underneath that. I think they're good policies, and they're for first reading, so no action is needed anyway. The biggest things for the technology is it makes it very clear students are not to access social media during the school day. It is that plain that they cannot do that. And as you can imagine, so many of our problems deal with social media. So we can't stop it at the house, but we're going to do what we can to stop it. Do what we can. And that's all we do, is do the best that we can. 8315 just reminds for our students and our staff, there should be no expectation of privacy if you're using our platform, speaking, emails, texting, whatever. Even if, and districts will have to do this in a year, if you go to double factor authentication, that doesn't give any extra layer of privacy. There is no expectation of privacy. If your device is on our platform, and it can be seen by anybody. I think if we open up 7540, and again, just first reading, happy to have further discussion. Talks about acceptable use. Pull the wrong one up, give me a second. 754003. That's about right. Okay, so there is a large section of new language, and it talks about the use of artificial intelligence and natural language processing tools for schoolwork. I think this is good. I think this will help our teachers. It makes it very clear students cannot use AI to complete schoolwork unless it's with the teacher's permission, the teacher guidance. Hey, let's learn how to use this, like it's meant to be used. In essence, if you read through here, and it talks about all the ways that a kid could use it if given teacher permission. So right now, this is a new world. I mean, a year ago, we were not talking about this. We were not talking about ChatGPT. It's amazing how much has changed. So that's what this policy is. It's not required that we pass it. And it's for first reading anyway, it's just for consideration. So those are the technology policies. That takes us through 8315. The last group, there is no common themes, but again, you'll see Neola gives us a nice little summary of each one. So if you just want to get the Cliff Notes, that's the word I was looking for. Do they still do Cliff Notes?
Yes.
Is that still a thing? Yeah. I never use those. 2271. It's a lot of our kids take College Credit Plus, and they should. It's a wonderful program, and it widens their experiences. Some kids struggle, and the language is always kind of murky. What do we do with the kids who are struggling? This gives a little bit of meat to the bones. If the kid is struggling, taking the College Credit Plus program, at some point they get put on probation? Are they dismissed from the program? And then how do they get reinstated? And speaking with Ms. Coulter and Mr. Stewart, they thought this would be a fine policy. In 5310, and I see my good friend Mr. Jackson's here, this now it's not specific for phys ed teachers, but I could see it would be a phys ed or recess, that if a student is removed from an activity because a suspected concussion injury, that kid now goes through the concussion protocol before they can return to physical class. 8390, again, I think this is a great policy and long overdue. And it helps. If people know the guardrails, I think it's helpful. Let's talk about animals on school district property. It defines what is a therapy dog. If you bring in, it's down here somewhere, a non-service animal, those are the ones that there's the most questions about. This first paragraph really sums it up nicely. For a non-service animal, animals permitted in school and elsewhere in district property shall be limited to those necessary to support specific curriculum-related projects and activities. So, I mean, it has to deal with something in the classroom. I mean, I love animals, and there's not a bigger dog lover in this world than me, but I'd love to bring my dog to work, but I don't, because it would be a distraction from our mission, right? And he goes through that, he gives all the different examples of how that is.
So Tracy, just
Yeah.
input there.
Yep.
I mean, I think this is why it's important. I mean, I know this is we have teachers that probably in the past have had the habit of bringing their pets in during the summer months when they're cleaning their classroom out, or coming here. I know one year we had a flea outbreak here. It was a major infestation at the now middle school, which was elementary. This all happened. We had to shut the building down for probably 3 months
That's a great story.
to go through a major clean out. Just because, again, it was a major issue. So again, summer teachers, I know we all love pets, but
then now we got an issue.
one outbreak, we got issues.
Now we got an issue. That is really, Rob, that's a great example. Thank
They're gonna hate me for saying that, but
Thanks for
it is what it is.
Thank you. And the last one I want to highlight, we can move on with the agenda. I'm sorry, Mr. Pritchard's got one, is 8462. And the reason I bring this up is this one sentence, the last green part, it's about sexual abuse training. And so Governor DeWine signed into law last January, and there really wasn't a lot of guidance given from the Ohio Department of Education, let's just say. So we decided we can't wait. We have a safety day. If we didn't have a safety day, I don't know when we would do this. I don't know when we'd find the time. But if you read that sentence, the program shall include training on child sexual abuse prevention. It is very specific, presented by law enforcement officers or prosecutors who have experience in handling cases involving child sexual abuse or child sexual violence. So great, awesome concept, wonderful, outstanding. I don't know if there's enough people to do all these trainings. I just don't know. We were lucky. They told me, they said we were the first ones that's asked. I said, so we got slotted in. I'm glad we got in. It was great. I don't know. I mean, these laws get put in place, but go figure out how to do it, I guess. So we did it. We did. It was good. Anyway, so again, we'd be here till midnight if we did all these, Mr. Zimmerman. So those are the ones I just wanted to call out specifically.
Can I just ask a question on your piece before we get to Matt?
Yeah.
So back to the technology piece.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that social media is an issue, right?
Yes.
So I know in the middle school, kids are not permitted to use their cell phones at all. They're in the lockers. High school, I believe they're wide open. They can have their phones on them. Well, obviously we don't want them on social media, especially on our network, period, but at the same time, we're still allowing them to hold their phone or have their phone in their possession on school campus. So is there thought there possibly for us to evaluate that, if that's something we should permit them to do? Or my kids are going to hate me for it. I've got 2 kids. One's going to come in next year. One's in now. But is there a possibility to look at that to see if that's one way to help lock this down to where they're not on social media? I know they have their Chromebooks or their PCs, but again, it's just one way to help the teachers not to deal with the cell phone issue in the classroom. Because I am hearing it is a major concern. So while we're talking about it, just let me bring it up.
Yeah. So we even at the middle school, we should teach kids how to use technology in an appropriate manner. Because in just a few years, they're going to be out into the workforce. They can't be on a job interview and look at their phone and it's buzzing and going off like the 4th of July. So we need to teach them how to navigate the world. One of the best books I've read in probably 10 years is The World is Flat. And this was way back before this we're talking about. The need to be able to communicate with people halfway around the world, just like you communicate with somebody next door. So if we don't get it here, I don't know really where they get these skills.
Yeah.
Having said that, if the high school principal, Mr. Stewart, if staff, if they say we need to do something, we could certainly could look at it.
Right, and we trust them to obviously know that. If that's an issue, again, I'm just here,
Yep.
squabbles, teachers, it's a problem for them, right? It's a distraction, major issue for them. But again, the high school, they're gonna hate me for saying this, but again, it's just, if it's an issue for their education and getting what they need to get here, then certainly something we should at least keep on the front burner, not just throw it back in the back burner, not be valuable.
Fair enough.
So that's all.
Fair enough.
Cool.
Thank you, Mr. Merrill. Policy 6146 is a pretty standard policy. It's an hire as required policy for any district that wants to borrow money. So for finance, bond issues, policy should be in place. We do have some finance on the agenda tonight for a resolution. So we need a first reading and a second reading passed next month. This policy is pretty standard, really nothing jumped out. It's something we haven't had to do for years.
Just for those watching, whenever they say new policy, they don't get the whole thing in green. It's just they say this is the new policy. And
Thank you.
Okay,
Yep, first reading.
so second reading next month.
Yes, sir.
All right, human resource items.
A smaller kind of an agenda. Our hiring for the most part is done. We've had a supplemental resignation and one classified resignation. We'd like to hire Ms. Adams as a sub. One item, and it's not to change the agenda, but on the supplemental table, I would like to pull the recommendations for varsity girls soccer and assistant girls soccer. It's still not quite buttoned down where it needs to be, so when you approve this, it will be minus those two recommendations. I'll bring a full recommendation in October. Everything in black is previously been approved. And on the department chairs, and as Mrs. Story had mentioned, I would like to see some more uniformity with our gate workers, and I mean this with all sincerity. The pay was different. There was $35 a day and $45 a day, and it didn't make sense to athletic council. It didn't make sense to personnel committee. So let's change it. It's $45 a day for gate workers, whether you're working a boys event or a girls event. It doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. We're also in Doug, our Mr. Foote, our athletic director. He works himself up, trying to make sure the names are correct for who our gate workers and site managers are. We're going to do like we do for summer school, like we do for after school detention. We're going to do an all call. We'll still try. It doesn't change anything. It's just it gives him some flexibility, because he may think, well, Mr. Fall's going to work this, and Mr. Fall had to work off or had to go work over. When I need to go get Mrs. Story. Oh, Mrs. Story's not being board approved. Everybody's approved. And so that's it. That's the rationale behind that.
Tracy, I know you're gonna kill me for tonight. I just want to make sure that the board knows, because we've talked about this too in our personnel meeting about gate workers, right? So just being a son that plays middle school football, so our middle school AD's been asking, right? He's been having some issues getting gate workers there. So again, we just want to make sure we clarify that the middle school has the same allotment available to them if he's looking for gate workers. So he's been barking 3 times just for his last home game to get gate workers. So if high school gets it, then again, I think middle school should be allowed to use the same stipend or same.
Thanks. That's a good call out.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this. I mean, that's a tough job, collecting money for people who don't want to pay. They think it's too high, and they don't want to pay for the 7-year-old that's coming in, and they don't want to pay for this, and then I'm a senior citizen, and I don't have to prove I'm a senior citizen. So, yes, and it's middle school and high school, it's all still the same.
Gotcha.
You're still getting that.
Yep. Just clarifying, so I'll
Yep.
make sure we know.
Great.
And the other opinion I think that I just would like to express to you is, at this point in the season, is it wise to be hiring a soccer coach for the women's soccer team? They only have a month to go, so just my opinion.
Yep.
For consideration.
And I think that would work to somebody's advantage in the interview that they've been doing it for a few weeks. Yep, I agree. We are. It's September 18th. And as we just talked about, this year is flying by. Fair enough. Again, for after-school, Saturday school detention, intervention, we hired the teaching staff last year. Sometimes it's hard to find people. I'd like to be able to hire a classified staff to do this as well. As Mr. Wooten, I believe, mentioned, the revisions to job descriptions, it's just the principals would have more ownership of the building custodial evaluations. And that is the consent items, Mr. Zimmerman, for Human Resources.
Okay, it is recommended the Board of Education approve items 9A through 9E.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any other discussion on any of the items? Okay, roll call.
All right, Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Thanks so much. And Mr. Cox will still be very much involved in the evaluation process. He still will be. The next HR item is for mentors for our wonderful new teachers. And that's a separate item. And just presented it for approval.
Okay. It is recommended the Board of Education approve item 9G.
Also move.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Duval?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Abstain. Okay. Treasury report and action items.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. Item A on the treasury report is the approval of the August 21st regular board meeting minutes. Item B is approval of the August 23rd athletic council meeting minutes. And item C is approval of the August 31st policy committee meeting minutes. Item D is approval of financial reports. Mr. Miller, if you could open up the, thank you, report right there. Maybe just expand that a little bit. The only thing I'd really like to showcase is that we received our real estate payment, over $5 million, $5.4 million. I would like to see that money come in, so it's really a big change. It's still early in the year to do comparisons, spending, expenditures, really keeping an eye on salary benefits because we used ESSER funds a lot last year to offset some of those costs. Those are gone. So they're all back in full force this year, so I'm trying to adjust as we need to. I'm going to talk about that a little bit on the appropriations measure here in just a minute. Right now, nothing else jumps out at me as being uncharacteristic or too high or too low. If you look at expenditures and your outflows, you'll see some higher numbers and percentages because we just spent a lot of money early in the year and it tails off to get ready for the new school year. So all that's pretty typical. Capital, especially the supplies, materials, a lot of stuff gets ordered around and tails off. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Item E is acceptance of donations. We do have a donation this month for the NREVSD Middle School Athletic Department. Item F is approval of a disposal list. We only have one item on there. It's a VCR.
Wow.
I don't know where they found that.
Okay. That's awesome.
That's pretty interesting to say. Item G, we do have two confirming purchase orders. Both of these are expected, to be honest with you. One is for federal appraisal. This is having to do with our newer power plant appraisal that's finalized. We're just getting an invoice for that now. We have a purchase order in place because I know we were going to get invoice. That was for $18,415. The other one is healthcare billing services. That's who helps do our Medicare recoup for the district. They do kind of all throughout the year, try to get as much money as they can for us, and then bills when they're done. We never know when they're going to be finished. If they're finished now, they bill us. So it's private purchase order. So nothing out of the ordinary for those two. Item H, if you could, Mr. Miller, this is the appropriation resolution for the fiscal year. So back in June, I asked you to approve temporary appropriations, and in September, you will be asked to approve the permanent appropriations. These can be adjusted throughout the year, but September is usually the date you want to do these. these are more solidified. The biggest jump is in 001, that top line general fund, because we spent a lot of money again out of ESSER funds, which came out of a fund called 507. We don't have any money left. So that's been increased over to almost $2.5 million compared to last year. The big jump is because, again, those monies aren't there, those federal monies are gone. I'll call in to revise that a little bit more this year, so you may see this on the agenda once, 2 more times this year, just as we revise it, we'll spend a little bit more. I have a feeling just because of the increases, we're gonna see that jump on this. The total right now, 34,805,000, is right around where we were last year, so it's probably a little too low. So as we continue to see our that expand as well, there's just no way we're gonna spend the same amount of money. Everything gets increased, and benefits go up. So this doesn't work that way. That's the appropriations resolution. And that is all I have.
Okay, it is recommended the Board of Education approve items 10A through 10H.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Story.
Second.
Lady. All right. Any other comments or? Roll call.
All right, Mr. Zimmer,
Yes.
Mrs. Story,
Yes.
Mr. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Dufault.
Yes.
Item 11, lease purchase resolution. This is a resolution for us to finance the energy optimizers project for the energy efficient lighting and the new boilers at Lucas Corner High School. It's about a $1.2 million project. We're going to finance this through a lease purchase agreement. We do have some banks who are willing to finance us through this. We're just kind of negotiating some last minute rates on that. And some other items, make sure it's callable. So this is a resolution that needs to pass so we can accept the financing and get that approved, and you allow your treasurer to approve it here. So I'll send you that resolution on Friday.
Okay, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the following lease purchase resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
And so Matt, the reason why we're signing this is because of why?
Just to
I mean,
our
have
cash
we ever had to sign one of these?
resolution. No, we never had to borrow before. Yeah, we've always used cash to build or finance. We never had to finance anything we needed to build or do anything like this for major projects. We just usually use our cash balance. Yeah. So it goes to the stadium for schools or any kind of updating schools as well. Baseball fields, all that is
So make sure
cash down.
So make sure the community knows that we've never had to borrow before.
We never have. That's why we passed the policy tonight as well. Or the first reading, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right, roll call.
All right, Mr. Dufault,
Yes.
Mrs. Story,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer.
Yes. Okay. Academic report.
Good evening. So I am excited to share information about the state report card scores for our district that were referenced a little earlier by Mr. Miller. The state report cards for 2022-2023 were released last week, and the Ohio School Report Card rates districts and every school in the state on overall achievement, progress, gap closing, graduation, and early literacy. So we get scores in all of those areas. While we're still disaggregating all of this data, New Richmond received an overall score of 4 out of 5 stars, which is an improvement from last year. We had 3 out of 5 stars. And this indicates 4 out of 5 stars indicates that New Richmond exceeded state standards in those categories. So congratulations to our teachers, our students, our administrators. A lot of hard work. I also wanted to mention that all of our professional development is beginning this year. Our principals and our teachers are both extremely dedicated to improving instruction all of the time. Last week, our building administrator spent the day with our data coach and with me, taking a very intentional and deliberate analytical look at our achievement and growth data from our MAP assessments. The administrators then planned intentional discussions for each building data team focused on meeting the needs of every group of learners in their building. In the past couple of years, they have had the assistance of our data coach when they ran those building data team meetings as they were learning how to do that. This year, they'll be doing that all on their own, so they're prepared for those first set of meetings that will be happening in the next week or so. And then thirdly, I just wanted to mention that our teachers are equally dedicated to their own professional development. Our new math program implementations are in full swing. Our teachers have begun their monthly professional development to plan each unit of instruction. The high school kicked off that last Friday. They met all day. They took the unit assessments themselves that the students will be taking at the end of their first 2 units. And then they planned the upcoming learning experiences in great detail for algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. And they're ready to implement the rest of Unit 1 and begin their Unit 2 and Unit 3. This week and next week, all elementary grade level math teachers and the middle school math teachers will be doing the same focused work to ensure that the new programs are implemented completely and evenly across the district. It's exciting.
It's good.
Thank you,
Thank
Doc.
you.
Thank you, Doc.
All right. Communications report.
So, as we're now basically right on into the full swing of things, I have more photos from the last month or so. Back before homecoming, the Wednesday before the homecoming game, there was Clash of the Classes on the football field. So the next few photos that you'll see will be of some of the events from that afternoon. It was a really, really fun afternoon. The rain didn't really hold off. It kind of poured on us a little bit here toward the end, but they still had a great time, and it didn't matter. Some of them were getting wet anyway, the way they went. So at the end, the tug of war competition between the classes was always, there was a spirited debate as to who the overall winner was in terms of the tug of war, and overall in general. Seniors ended up winning the entire competition. The freshmen were second, much to the dismay of the juniors in third. So I don't know where that football photo came from. We'll get to that in a second. But after that, the next day was the alumni dinner before the parade, and the time that we spent at that dinner, and I think you would agree with this. It was fantastic. They were attentive. They were asking questions. They were keeping us on our toes with the questions that they were asking. It was a great event, and it was really nice to see the amount of dedication that the people have to the district and the community. And it was a very nice way to start the night. And then that kind of continued into the parade, because if we hadn't gotten there early as we had to, we wouldn't have gotten there at all, because it was packed all the way down. In just some of the photos from the parade, we've got the band, and this is probably one of my favorite photos. Unfortunately, it's not a video, because I don't know, you guys were in the parade, so you might not have been able to hear this, but he wanted everyone to know that he was a hot dog. And that was all he was saying the entire way down the parade route. And it's just stuff like that to get the kids out there and they got to be the center of attention for a little while. Everyone got to give them their own due. Oh,
That guy.
yeah.
I don't think I signed a release.
A lot of games.
That's on this side.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
A
right.
lot of games.
Yeah, there was a lot of candy. There were still kids picking up candy off the ground long after the parade.
It's still down there.
It'll probably still be down there until next year when the next parade comes through. So after that was the first of 2 pep rallies. We'll get to both. Having all of the fall sports teams come out down by the river at the bandstand. I know from experience that some of those other sports don't get the same amount of coverage that all of the other ones do, and it's a tough thing to balance. The golf kids and the football kids, they all put the same amount of effort in. It's different sports, different things that you would need to do, but they all do the work. And they all deserve to have those things highlighted. And the cheerleaders, being able to have them out there and show off the things that they do, it was a great thing to kind of bring everyone together right at the end there before the football game the next night. Rylan Utter is dunking the basketball in this photo at the homecoming pep rally for the high school that afternoon. And I'm going to name him because he stopped me in the hallway before he did this and made sure that I got this photo, but I don't know if he's ever actually seen it. So I'm going to do everything I can to let him know that I took the photo, Ryan. There's your dunk. Good job. He signed that volleyball and threw it into the stands after he was signed it. This was the Georgia Cars, her entry into that homecoming pep rally. They shot off glitter onto the floor. It was a really fun night. Our, of course, faculty homecoming king and queen, Alan Linder and Shannon Willis, were paraded around the gym. And then the game that night went pretty well. I believe it was 47-6. So
It was well.
yeah. They had it was a great week all around overall. And Georgia had a really good day. She would be homecoming queen later on along with Nick. So congrats to both of them. The next set of photos are all from Safety Day today. This is where I started, which was at the high school for the AG discussion. There were a lot of great questions asked. They did a great job keeping everything flowing. I think they went like a minute over, which all things considered, they did a fantastic job. After that, I stuck around for the ALICE training, and I took photos of the ALICE training, but every photo that I would take at the end, the officers walked up to me like, hey, did you put a face in that photo? You did not do that? I'm like, well, you know what? So for safety reasons, I'm not going to publish any of the officers' faces in those photos, but again, great questions were asked, great demonstrations were had. The police officers that came out and helped walk through what they would be doing in one of the situations that hopefully we never have to actually see. They all were fantastic, and I cannot thank them enough for just not even throwing the camera out there, so at least I got to see it, even if I can't publish anything from it. That is the only photo that I'm willing to publish from that. Everything is cropped out except the logo of the Special Response Team, and that's even blurry. After the high school, I went to Monroe for their 1 and 5, and as they always do, every time they're out here, 1 and 5 did a fantastic job. They had both presenters. That's Luke. I don't know why he's in there yet. But there were 2 presenters over at the high school or at Monroe for 1 and 5. The transportation, Luke was doing his bus safety drills, and he did a good job after he did his AG speech. This is them learning the tablet to check the kids on and off the bus to make sure that they understand how that, because they've had some trouble with it, and they're working through those issues together, and they're getting to the point now to where they're starting to be able to solve those things on their own. That's the photo that was supposed to be before this one. This is the other presenter for 1 and 5 in Monroe. She also did a fantastic job. This is out of Locust Corner. This is their Stop the Bleed. I think these photos end up getting out of order, so it might take me a couple seconds to look at what I'm looking at here. This is Monroe's Locust Corner Stop the Bleed event with Pierce Township Fire Department. There's Joe learning how to apply a tourniquet. I think he already knew based on how well and how quick he did it. This is the lunch at Monroe, or Locust Corner, and I wanted to thank our food service staff for doing a great job because they had to participate in the stuff this morning too. They stopped, they were able to get all the lunches out. I didn't hear a single complaint. Everyone seemed they were having a great time out of Locust Corner, so I wanted to give them a little shout out for getting everything done in the manner that they did it today as well. And then we finished back at the high school for the child sex abuse prevention training this afternoon. I don't know if this is going to be the last photo. We'll find out together. Yep, it seems like it is. I thought I had some other ones on there from the fire extinguisher training that they held out at the transportation department, where they were catching things on fire and putting them out, thankfully. But I guess they just didn't show up for that promo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shank. Very good. Excellent.
All right. Adjournment.
Also moved.
Okay, any second out there? All right, I'll second. Roll call.
All right, Mr. Dufault?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer?
Yes.
56.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.